All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. Welcome to our PI14 community meeting. Very exciting day. We have new changes this time around. It's 3 days of technical sessions, so we hope you will set aside the next 3 days and hang out with us. I quickly want to pass it over to Paula Hunter, the Executive Director for the Mojaloop Foundation. Paula.
Thank you, Simeon, and welcome all. Thanks for joining us here today. It's kind of hard to believe this is our 5th virtual community meeting. I'd so love to be in a room with you all right now, but we do appreciate your attention. And we felt that it would be worthwhile to shorten the week a little bit to address Zoom fatigue. We will be having some business-oriented webinars in the upcoming months, so we do hope you'll be able to join us for those discussions as well. I know that this pandemic has had an impact on all of us, work-wise, personally, health-wise. So I do hope you're working your way through it with good health and good spirit, and hopefully we'll have some fun this week as well. We have a really packed agenda, so please do pay attention to the timings as you're speaking. And Simeon and Leslie Ann will be here on hand to help you if you have any questions, as will other staff members. So what I'd like to do is hand off now to Alyssa, who'll give you just a quick update on our new platform here, Pathable. But have a great week, everyone. And again, great to see you.
Thank you, Paula. Welcome all. So glad to have you here. Just a couple of really quick notes on the platform. Each session has its own specific agenda card where you'll see the session title and the speaker names. Just like you did to join this session, you'll click into each session and then see join meeting when that session is live. There is a chat function for each of the individual sessions. Please use that for any speaker Q&A or interaction. And if you have any technical problems, please either private message me. You can do that under the conversations tab by selecting your inbox and messaging me, Alyssa McCardle. There's also a need help get support button at the top left of your screen. There is also a demos section. If you see next to home, schedule, people, the 4th one in is demos. And we've had a great number of folks send us along some demos. You can watch them there. There's also a section to add some comments. At the end of each session, next to the polls tab, you'll see, next to the chat tab, you'll see the polls tab, and we are asking you to rate each session after you watch it. I will now pass it over to Sam. Enjoy all, thanks.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thanks everyone. I see some very familiar names in the list here. Thanks everyone for joining. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. So thanks Paula and Mojaloop Foundation, everyone here for giving us a chance to kick off today's sessions. My name is Sam Kumari, part of the testing toolkit work stream. So today we briefly will look at some of the aspects, learnings we had in the previous few months. And as a consequence, we chose to do a few things. For example, we would like to talk about how the testing toolkit has been adopted for various use cases and scenarios, and some of the enhancements we were able to do in the program increment 13, and a brief look at the future. So we have a tight session here, so I'll quickly pass it on to Vijay to take us over the rest of the session. Before that, I wanted to thank everyone who contributed to this, primarily the adopters, but also people who worked on the testing toolkit itself, Shashi, Stephen, Vijay, Michael, and others, Emerson, who contributed to it, Miguel and everyone else. Thank you. Vijay, please take over.
Thanks, Sam. Hello, everyone. I'm Vijay Kumar. I'm working for Modestbox as Senior Software Developer. So without further delay, let's start the presentation. Testing toolkit is a multi-purpose tool. It can test API, FSP API implementations, either DFSP implementation or hub implementation. And also it can test any other API implementations which are open API based. So we can use this tool for onboarding, demonstration, and QA validation purpose. Next slide. So we are going to talk about the adapters of the testing toolkit. Next slide, please. These are the teams who are using testing toolkit. So we asked a few teams to provide a short video on how they are using the testing toolkit for their use case. So let's start with the first team. Next slide. Okay, so PISP team using a testing toolkit for the simulation, for the API simulation, and also as a test runner. They used advanced capabilities of the testing toolkit like inbound scripting for the simulation. So let's see a short video by Pavel. Yeah, you can play the video. Okay.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Pavel Marzec. I am a team member of the PISP team. I will show you and talk about how in the PISP team we are using the testing toolkit. So let's talk about why PISP team decided to use TTK. First of all, TTK can simulate any Mojaloop service. To do this, you need only properly set up Open API interface in TTK. So after that, you can use a rule-based generated responses. You can define, for example, for which path, which responses should be generated. Moreover, the rule-based engine can inspect the URL parameters, the request body payload, and the headers. So you can define many error scenarios. And also TTK has a great support for the callbacks. So in the Mojaloop, we are using asynchronous callback approach when we send to the switch, for example, the post request on some resource, the switch will propagate it back, and the switch will deliver the response on that. And TTK make this job very easy, no need for extra configuration. TTK can act on any received request also using script-based actions. So you can define your response and delegate generating the response to your script. So you can customize fully how TTK is responding and how many calls to other endpoints can be done by TTK. So JavaScript, it's a great feature. Of course, there is a very intuitive user interface, and using this UI, the TTK UI, you can manage and visualize the requests flows, even for quite complicated workflows. So what is a narrow integration test? Narrow integration test is testing a microservice. A single microservice is in fully isolated environment. So microservice, the contract which should be fulfilled by the microservice is tested against the testing toolkit. So there is no need to set up all services. What you only need to set up is a TTK with the proper Open API specification and proper setup of the how TTK should react on the calls which are coming from your microservice. So as the final effect, it's quite easy to set up a narrow integration tests, and you can configure TTK only for the services which are working together with our tested microservice. So there is no need to set up everything else. You don't need to set up the whole Mojaloop switch, which could be a big challenge. in some situations. And TTK, in such small setup, it allows you to quickly identify the common errors and to solve the very early errors during which you can have during your integration, especially the bad requests. And using the TTK GUI, you can specify the responses. So there is, in most cases, there is no need to write any code for most cases. So, and the mechanism of rule-based handled actions, including the JavaScript scripts, helps to cover many error scenarios. Thank you all. If you have any questions, you can reach me via the email pavel.marzec@moduloopbox.com.
Thanks, Pavel. The next team is Mojaloop Support team. In the core team, we use a testing toolkit, which is deployed as part of the Mojaloop cluster. In that case, we don't need to configure any security or authentication parameters, but the Mojaloop support team wants to test their Mojaloop switch by deploying testing toolkit outside the Mojaloop cluster. So there is a WS42 gateway before the Mojaloop cluster. So we need to configure MTLS and also authentication tokens. We added support for MTLS client-side certificates. And also thanks for Immersion, who added authentication tokens in every request. Yeah, let's see a short video by Immersion.
Hey everyone, my name is Emerson Pereira and I'm part of the Mojaloop TechOps team. So I'll be talking to you about using TTK and Mojaloop in separate clusters and the ongoing challenges of using this approach. So using TTK and Mojaloop in separate clusters. So we were given with this exercise in the TechOps team. So the idea was to have Mojaloop on one side, and on the other side we were going to have a virtual machine, and inside the virtual machine we were going to install the TTK, and then anyone with VPN access could use the web browser to connect to the TTK and being able to send any of the tests from the TTK golden path. Okay, something I would like to highlight is that when we were testing this approach, the environment that we were using was a WSO2 environment. Okay, it's just something that I would like to highlight. We faced a few challenges while trying this, and we could solve them using some workarounds. Thanks to the testing toolkit team for their great support and for in our onboarding process. We are now able to run the golden path TTK test against our Mojaloop switch behind a WSO2 gateway. So that's basically the list of the ongoing issues we have when we try to use this approach. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Emerson. Next, DFSP Lab hackathon. Let's see a video by Luis, how they use testing toolkit for the hackathon lab. Sam, video please.
Hi everyone, my name is Lewis. I'm one of the developers working on Mojaloop from Cross Lake. And earlier this year, we ran a hackathon with DFS Lab. And for that hackathon, we used some of the testing toolkit. And Vijay's asked me to share a little bit about how we use the testing toolkit. So really, before I talk about that, let's just share a little bit about the environment so you can understand what's going on. So this is a website here, beta.mojalab.live, that you can go to. and that has a running sandbox that we used for the hackathon. We've kept it running since. So we have the sandbox that is running here, and then we have 4 DFSPs or simulated DFSPs who are connected to the Mojaloop switch. Now these are simulators, so if we send them appropriate requests, they give us the corresponding responses. So things like a party lookup, a get parties call. If we send them the correct type of call, they're going to respond with a put parties with information about a user that we can use to proceed with the transfer. Now, so we have these 4 DFSPs, and then we have 2 testing toolkits who also act as DFSPs. And we can use the testing toolkits to send transfers or send requests via the Mojaloop sandbox or the Mojaloop switch here to any of these DFSPs. So this was one of the use cases that we presented and we helped users get up and running with in the hackathon. And we've also got the information here on this guide here, testing toolkit peer-to-peer transfer, and it's easy because it's very easy. So you can see kind of here, egg MM via Mojaloop will be talking to Apple Bank and vice versa. So this is the little guide here that you can take a look at and play around with in your own time, perhaps after watching this demo. But I'll just walk you through it quickly. And here is the testing toolkit instance for egg MM or egg mobile money. Now we've got a few things. Just you might be familiar with a few bits and pieces of the testing toolkit. One of the things I've done is I like to keep the monitoring page in a different tab, because that helps me debug things when they go wrong, or to understand and see all the requests that are going on from the testing toolkit and from Mojaloop. So if we go to outbound request, so let's take a quick look at these test cases. We have a get parties call, we have a post quotes call, and then we have a post transfers call. So this is the party lookup, the agreement phase or the quotation phase, and then the actual final transfer. Now we can look and, using the editor, play around with a few different values, override some of our variables that we set elsewhere. And we also get, when we hit send, we'll get a nice little bit of curl output that we can copy and paste into a command line. So let's hit send and just go from there. There we go. So all of our test cases were successful. And then we can see, like I said, the curl commands that you can copy and paste to mimic the same request if you want to repeat anything here. And let's have a quick look over in our monitoring window, and we can see this is what a successful Mojaloop lookup, quotation, and transfer looks like. So we sent a get parties call, we got a put parties back, and we can have a look and inspect what are the things that we got back. So in our example here, we found out that the party ID for this identifier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is Apple Bank. So that's who we can address future calls to. And then we've also found out information about the end user that the Apple Bank has registered, and that is Alice Alpaca, just as we saw in our little table of users here that we have pre-registered with the sandbox. So basically, I think that's all I really wanted to show you. We don't have time for too much more, but hopefully that gives you an idea of how we use the testing toolkit and all the tools around it for the DFS Lab hackathon. So thank you.
Thanks, Luis. Last but not the least, we use a testing toolkit in ISO 20022 hackathon submission by Mojaloop. We use testing toolkit here to simulate the whole Mojaloop switch because we had to make the whole solution easily deployable. So we thought of include the testing toolkit, and also we use slightly refactored versions of UI components of the testing toolkit to simulate both sender and receiver mobile applications. Okay, next slide, please. let's see the updates in this PI. We did many improvements to the testing toolkit in this PI. The first one is native desktop application. So we provided binary packages in the GitHub releases section. You can directly download the package, unpack it, and run it. You don't need Docker or Git or any other software. You can directly start using the testing toolkit. Then we included CGS settlements related test suites, which includes onboarding and golden path tests. And also we supported the adapters by adding new features or their requirements and fixing some bugs. Next slide, please. We created some videos and uploaded to the event platform Pathable. You can have a look at these 3 videos. Yeah, next slide.
Thanks, Vijay. So please do look at those videos. I think we have them with the prefix TTK 1, 2, 3, and 4. The roadmap, so far, we've worked on evolving the testing toolkit to support our goals, but moving forward, we want to work on a training module as part of the Mojaloop training program for the testing toolkit, while also supporting testing toolkit's usage by various teams, and also making it a more open source tool, as we discussed in our previous PI. So that's our primary goal, testing toolkit training module while doing some enhancements and support. There is an appendix section along with this presentation. Feel free to look at that as well, which goes into detail about some of the architectures and deployment scenarios. Thank you, Vijay. Thanks, everyone. That's it from us for today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Vijay. We will end this session here, and the next session is live. I encourage you all to join it. See you over in the next session.